a European natural shampoo. It's fortified with a blend of 100% natural extracts rich in vitamins A, C, and E. It strengthens and protects hair from everyday damage.
Professional, affordable, Tresemme.
Now your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Thunderstorms packing heavy rain brings the potential for flash flooding throughout the areas of the southeast this afternoon. Welcome to Weather Center. I'm Mike Motley, and Weather Center is sponsored by GM Pontiac.
And I'm Dan Atkinson. We also have another day of record-breaking heat ahead of us, with 100-degree temperatures pushing up into the Pacific Northwest. More on the heat wave in a minute, but first details on the wet weather across the south. And taking a look first at Charlotte, North Carolina, driving through high waters gets you nowhere, as some drivers in North Carolina found out. Heavy rain overnight and into the morning caused street flooding in and around Charlotte. Showers linger in the area this afternoon, and the dew point's high, making it feel very sticky. Atlanta drivers were forced to take it slow this morning after a line of thunderstorms dumped heavy rain across the city. The excess water shut down 2 southbound lanes of Interstate 75 for a while. For pedestrians downtown, the umbrella was their best defense against the rain. Some people, unfortunately, forgot to keep them handy. Well, we do still have some heavy weather, particularly across Georgia and the Carolinas. A tornado is reported to have briefly touched down in Horry County in northeastern South Carolina. And that was around the junction of Highway 701, I believe, and 544. Those cells have since moved on off eastward into the Atlantic. And conditions are now just rainy across Horry County. But certainly stormy weather from around Savannah, Georgia, back through central sections of the state. Wheeler County is under a severe thunderstorm warning now. Wheeler County in central Georgia, with a cell moving to the southeast at about 20 miles per hour. So prepare for rapidly changing weather conditions. And there are a number of strong thunderstorms, although not yet reaching severe levels. So certainly prepare across southeast Georgia for some heavy rainfall, some strong gusty winds, possibly some frequent lightning, and some heavy downpours. And also the reason for the rainfall, where we have a frontal system stretching across the southeastern portion of the country. There's low pressure over western Oklahoma with a warm front stretching up through the middle Mississippi Valley. Then it becomes a cold front just about over Horry County, where that tornado touched down. And anywhere along and to the south of that frontal boundary, we can look out for strong thunderstorms over the southeast today. Unfortunately, not looking for any precipitation to speak of across the state of Texas until you get to the Panhandle and far west Texas, and then possibility of some scattered thunderstorms right on up into the northern Rockies. And in fact, you could have some thunderstorms for you in the Sierra and the Cascades as well. There's a potential for some flooding rains over West Tennessee, also just about any part of the state of Utah. could have some flooding. Flood watch covers the entire state, and portions of Iron, Kane, and Garfield counties in Utah are under flash flood warnings, and you are under a flash flood watch over portions of southeastern Idaho. Taking a closer look at the radar here, conditions much improved over northern Alabama, as earlier you had a broad area of rain, light to moderate rain. That has since diminished considerably, and there are just a few showers over western portions of Tennessee where the ground is saturated, and certainly you don't need any more rain. Been getting some rain in recent hour at Albuquerque, at Santa Fe, Las Vegas, New Mexico, and also some rain scattered up across portions of Utah, whereas noted portions of Iron and Kane and Garfield counties continue under flash flood warnings, and that includes the Bryce Canyon National Park. What about the temperatures across the country? Mike has the story.
Well, dangerous heat conditions continue across the southern plains and the desert southwest, and the extreme temperatures are now creeping into the Pacific Northwest. Looking at the national picture, high pressure dominating the scene at the south into Texas. It will spread into Arkansas and keep things warm throughout portions of the southwest and central south. We're seeing clouds over the region into Georgia, making things a little cooler with the showers and clouds, so not as warm in Georgia, but it's still warm across the southeast. 75 in Atlanta to 100 in Dallas and 99 at Oklahoma City. Temperature changes over the last 24 hours. We're around 12 degrees colder or cooler in Atlanta, thanks to clouds and showers. 18 degrees warmer in Lincoln, Nebraska, and around 1 degrees cooler around Dallas and 13 degrees cooler in Amarillo, Texas. Dew points are high, so it is sticky and warm in the portions of the southeast, and that's helped fostering the thunderstorms and showers into Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and North and South Carolina. Looking at the temperatures around the southeast, we're at 90 degrees at Miami, 96 in Orlando, 93 at Jacksonville. Our pocket of heat remains into the western portion of the southwest. Dallas at 100, Oklahoma City at 99, and Little Rock, the temperature at 102. Factor in the heat, it feels like it's 123 in Arkansas's capital city, and this will continue for the next few days, so no relief in sight for Little Rock. Dallas feels like 101, Houston feels like 104, and Oklahoma City feels like 105. The other parts of the southeast not so bad because of the clouds and showers moving through the region, but not the story around Tampa, Orlando, or Jacksonville. That's where it's 106, 104, and 101, the heat indices, respectively. Into the northeast, it feels better. We're into the 80s and 70s around the region. Caribou, Maine at 74, Bangor at 75. We're at 80, Statue of Liberty in Philadelphia, or in New York City, Philadelphia, Fairmount Park 83, and 83 at Rock Creek Park in Washington, D.C. Further inland, Pittsburgh, we're at 78, and Erie, Pennsylvania, at 80 degrees. And into the west, we're seeing those warm temperatures into the southwest as usual. The northwest is warming up. We're at 98 degrees at Spokane, Washington, Seattle, and Portland, both at 91. Usually does not get that warm, as you know, in Seattle and Portland. Usually in the 70s or right at about 80. 96 at Medford, San Francisco, cool at 66. We're at 93 at Los Angeles and 108 in Phoenix. Factor in heat feels like it's a little cooler. It actually feels like it's 105 in Phoenix, 102 in Las Vegas, and 100 in L.A. It feels like 96 in Spokane.
Heavy rains have brought flooding to parts of Missouri, Utah, Idaho, and Oregon, and at this hour, folks are taking cover with severe weather affecting some of the coastal sections of Florida and South Carolina. Details on the severe weather in the states coming up on Storm Watch, but first, our tropical update. Here's the Weather Channel's Dr. Steve Lyons.
Well, thanks, Dan. We've got some interesting information out there for you. The first tropical depression of the season in the Atlantic is there, and we also have Hurricane Darby in the Pacific. Let's take a very large-scale view of what's going on out there in the extreme eastern Atlantic. Here's what we call a full disk picture, IR picture from space, and you can actually see the Earth's atmosphere right on the edge here, that very little thin rim. It really is a very thin layer of air relative to the Earth's overall size. But what we see here, here's our tropical depression here, Tropical Depression 1. It's moving to the west, west-northwest here, and here are the latest coordinates on it right now. It's at 12.2 north, 27.9 west, or about 335 miles to the west-southwest of the Cape Verde Islands. Winds are still relatively weak, about 30 miles per hour, and it's now moving in a west-northwest direction. Pretty good clip, about 21 miles an hour. Pressure's 1,008 millibars. And we can see it in a little more close-up shot in the infrared imagery here. It had a very big puff of deep thunderstorms earlier today. It's still spinning pretty good there in the low cloud layers, though, and thunderstorms are starting to come back. It's starting to become nighttime over there now, and so we're seeing the thing still moving, and it's not developing much yet, but the Hurricane Center is forecasting it to tropical storm over the next 24 to 36 hours as it moves to the west, and we have some fairly favorable conditions for this. The first favorable condition is that there's a low-level trough of low pressure that it's embedded in. The second condition is the upper-level winds over the top of it are generally easterly or light, and that is favorable because there's very weak vertical wind shear. Now, we've shown you the upper-level winds. Let me show you the water vapor imagery over there, and we can see what we're talking about. Here's a system way over here, and you can see over the top of it there's a ridge of high pressure. Now, farther out toward the islands, we have a string of upper-level low-pressure systems. There's one here, there's one farther to the north, one back over here, just over Hispaniola, and then one back over the extreme western Gulf of Mexico. If that system persists in there, that may not be too favorable for development later on, or it'll at least curtail development. So we're hoping that system stays put in there. It's a little too early to tell just yet what that's going to do, but that trough of low pressure, that upper tropospheric trough, could be a major player later on down the road. But right now we don't see any major development in the system. And you can see over here the rest of the Atlantic basin is relatively quiet. We have a weak trough of low pressure above the surface, a weak tropical wave here. It's producing some showers over Puerto Rico as it swings to the east, from east to west this afternoon, moving at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. But other than that, we don't see too much. We see in the extreme eastern corner, here's the tropical depression out in here, and we see this trough of low pressure. There's a little vortex spinning up right there, little tiny low pressure center. That's indication of the environment behind it that's fairly favorable. So we go into the Caribbean, not much going on there at all. We have remnants of a tropical wave moving across the Yucatan Peninsula, and in the Gulf of Mexico, we're fairly good shape there with a surface ridge of high pressure. Now, we don't expect much to happen in July, but near the latter part of July and into August, we see a very big increase in tropical cyclone activity. Now, in the Pacific, we've been following Hurricane Darby. Still out there, still going strong, luckily not heading toward land right now. It was moving west-northwest. Now it's moving west at 15 miles per hour. Current speed still 115 miles per hour. We can see a good picture of it here. Very nice eye. That's warm spot in the center of it with thunderstorms around it, and it continues to track to the west at a fairly good clip. Very intense hurricane out here, but luckily not affecting land at this stage. And if we look on a little broader scale, we see Darby move off the edge of the screen there and back toward Mexico, some ill-defined thunderstorm activity that right now is not developing. Well, let's go back to Dan and see what he's got in store for you across the country.
And thanks a lot, Steve. We take a look at the current U.S. map, and you'll notice a frontal system across the south. That's the northern boundary of the hot, humid, unstable air, and it's really firing up across portions of Georgia and Florida and South Carolina.
Ever heard of drive-in claim service? Well, who's your insurance company?
Now your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
lot of tropical weather to cover tonight. We have our first tropical depression of the Atlantic season to show you, and the latest on Hurricane Darby, which is still spinning out through the Pacific, plus a look at the severe weather, or the lack thereof, back here on the continent, here in the lower 48. We'll start it off, though, with the tropics, as we always do at 50 after throughout the season, and a look at the big blue planet. And if you look out there off the coast of Africa, you can find our first tropical depression of the season. And let's look at it. Here it is. We see tropical waves coming off Africa throughout the summertime, spring, late spring and summer. And there is our tropical depression. Now, in this vantage point, it looks like it's a lot closer to the islands than it actually is. It's actually 4 to 4.5 days away from having any impact on the Lesser Antilles, the Leeward and Windward Islands. So that's some good news. We've got plenty of time to watch it. And of course, our tropical team here of experts, Dr. Steve Lyons and John Hope, both of them with many years of experience at the Hurricane Center in Miami, are keeping a close eye on things. There's the old tropical L, not your basic L that we use over land for a synoptic scale low in the U.S., but this is our tropical L, indicating a tropical depression. Winds of 30 miles an hour. It's moving west at 21 miles an hour. Expected to continue that movement, but may start to turn more towards the west-northwest in several days. Again, we're 4 to 4.5 days away from any impact, if all, across the islands. There are the coordinates: 12.2 north, 29.5 west. Now remember the 29.5 because we want to try to find the center of circulation. These are the lines of longitude. This is 25, this is 30. So we're looking at an area right about here, and we've seen some thunderstorms develop over the past couple of hours just along and off to the east of the center of the circulation. Not very well organized, and we have seen the showers and storms off to the southwest of the center of circulation most of the day on Monday. We do have some decent ridging aloft. That means outflow at the higher levels. You can see the cirrus clouds going off in this direction. So the wind environment is favorable, the water temperatures are favorable, and so right now the forecast from the Hurricane Center is for slow strengthening over the next several days, and it could become a tropical storm as early as tomorrow evening, Tuesday evening. We'll keep you updated. There are the winds, light easterly winds across the Atlantic, which bodes well for at least some strengthening with our tropical depression. But notice what's ahead of it. Several days from now, if this wind pattern holds true up there around 30 or 35,000 feet, the winds are coming in from the south and maybe a little south-southwest, and that's what we term wind shear. That would tend to hinder any development. So we'll have to watch it and see what happens as it continues to move across the Atlantic. Again, we have plenty of time to keep an eye on our first tropical depression. Looking back over Hispaniola, an upper low here, an upper low over the Bay of Campeche and the Yucatan, two areas which favor showers and storms. But ahead of our tropical depression, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing out here. So if you're watching from the islands, the next several days should be fine as far as the weather goes. Nothing as far as a tropical wave heading your direction. You can see how far off our tropical depression is. Moving back towards Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic and Haiti, you can see a spin here. That's fired up some storms, but nothing serious. We don't expect anything to develop. And back over the Yucatan, too, a lot of showers and storms, what's left of our wave moving in towards the Bay of Campeche. We do not expect that to develop. Now remember, this is not nearly the peak of the hurricane season. We're looking at September 10th. We're way back here, approaching the 1st of August. So climatologically, this is not a very active time of the year to get something going, but we'll watch our TD. September 10th is where we really have seen the peak of activity over the past 100-plus years. Activity in the eastern Pacific, Hurricane Darby, still a Category 3 hurricane, generally moving off to the west, 15 miles an hour, a long way from land, either the coast here, the Mexican coast, or the String of Pearls, the Hawaiian Islands. And as it moves in this direction, we'll watch it, but impact on Hawaii would be very unlikely. Usually we have a steering flow, and we do right now, of winds coming in from this direction, west-southwest wind shear, which really prohibits any hurricanes from moving in directly from the west. There it is. You can see the tight circulation, the eye, very slow, a very small compact storm. And again, it's several days away from any kind of impact on the Hawaiian Islands. We'll keep you posted from the Weather Channel. That's a look at Darby on our tropical depression. Back at home on the current weather map, we don't have any significant fronts or severe weather. We have storms over the Intermountain West. Also in the southeast, we've been following all day.